Thank you very much for the introduction. My name is Kumiya Nakakoji, and I'm from Kyoto University. And I'd like to present our joint collaboration between RIEC and Kyoto University Design School. And particularly this talk, I'd like to convey some underlying theme, which I titled Interpreting, Situating, and Envisioning Technologies in a Societal Context Through Design. So my talk consists of 4 parts. In the first part, I'd like to present an overview of the inter-organizational cooperative research project between RIEC and Kyoto University Design Unit. I then focus on this particular type of communication, which is situated in a societal context. So there are many types of communication in general, and RIEC is dedicated to study ethical communication. And I'm particularly, and in research in our project, we are particularly interested in communication in a societal context. I then would like to identify opportunities of electrical communication research by interpreting communication in the collective creativity spectrum, which has been my research topic over the last few decades. And I'd like to conclude my talk by proposing to extend mindset into envisionment-driven research engagement. So these are 4 parts of my talk. The first part, to give you an overview of what our project is about. The project title is Innovation of Electrical Communication Systems Based on Design. In Japanese, it's デザイン学に基づく電気通信システムの革新になります。So it's a type of inter-organizational research project. It's in a collaboration between RIEC,東北 University, and the Kyoto University Design School on the right side. So I'll briefly give you about what who we are. Kyoto University Design School is sort of a functional organization to pursue establishing the PhD minor in design among the 5 existing disciplines, including informatics, mechanical engineering, architectural engineering, education, and management sciences. So students, PhD students who are enrolled in those existing studies also take design courses as like a PhD minor. So we are sort of nurturing students to have expertise in each area together with those design ways of looking at and facing the problem and issues to deal with. And we use design as a scheme, as an instrument, or as a common language to cope with societal issues by exploiting digital, physical, logical, numerical, and symbolic media and systems based on cognitive and social understanding. So design, we are using design, the term design in a very broad sense. And by design, there are many number of researchers and philosophers talking about design and using the term design to address sort of a complex, complicated issues surrounding people, like human beings. And Howard Simon, for instance, defined design as the science of the artificials as opposed to natural science. So we are producing some artifacts, man-made things, and there should be a science, and that's design. Or design has been characterized as ill structures or wicked problem-solving tasks. And then there's always this co-evolution of problem-solving and problem framing and solution building. So you cannot define the problem before solving it, and that's the nature of design. And there is a hermeneutic circle framing the problem and the solution, having the codependency between the solution and the problem. and there's only satisfying solution, no satisfactory solution, meaning that everybody has to sort of compromise, and there's no best one, but only like better ones in the context of something. So lots of negotiations and really convincement is necessary. And then by design, it's a really human act, knowledge act. And typically those practices is called like reflective practitioners. Humans engage in those reflective practice and eventually solving some problems, and that's called design. So we are using the term design, and we are teaching design in this kind of a broad sense at the Kyoto University. And in the collaboration between RIEC and Kyoto University Design School, we set up the goal of this project in these facets. The first one is to project communicative environments by designing people's experience towards enriching their lives, and which is actually the sort of a part of a vision statement of RIEC. The second facet of the goal is to expand multidisciplinary program in design by incorporating electrical communication technologies, by incorporating a lot of innovative, new, super cool technologies developed in RIEC. And then we want to evolve technologies and design methods towards innovative communication experience, tools, and environments. So those are our project goals. So in the next topic, I'd like to put the communication in a societal context. So communication in a very, very simple model is something like this. And then you transfer information from one side to another side. So it can be simply modeled like this. If the receiver side becomes a human being, it's a little bit different story. When a person receives the information, the state of the mind of this person changes to the state when the person received the information. So, and the process is irreversible. So the first part, which is really fundamentally, very unique to human, is once you know something, you cannot go back to the state where you didn't know. You cannot undo your experience unless you have a very specialized like accidents, or at least for now, we have no way to pretend. We can pretend, only pretend that we can forget it. Also, when a person receives the information, of course, you physically receive some symbols or signals, but based on your evolving knowledge, your nature or your ways of perceiving the information and cognize it, and then you sometimes have illusion, you have tunnel visions, and all sorts of things affect the way that you interpret the information. And those are the topics studied, which has been studied under the title field in cognitive science. And how your state of mind changes also is determined by yourself, your cultural development, your background, your experience, your current situation. So it is structure determined, history dependent, and unilateral experience. Once again, you cannot go back to the state once you get that information, or once you interpret the information. So having those human nature, you then need to design how you communicate, in which way to communicate. So then you need to design the form and the timing of the information to send to communicate right, by understanding what could be going on in the receiver side's mind. And moreover, if you have something that this person should know or should be become this state, you have to design what to communicate in the first place in order to attain the desired state of the mind of the receiver. So this is the very, very exciting part, and this has been one of my research topics for a long time. How can we design the environment or the tool to help people become creative and getting creative ideas? And that's what I've been doing under the type of knowledge interaction design research to identify elements, features, and design principles of interactivity that promotes and enhances creative knowledge work engagement. So my particular area has been software application systems and visual interactivity systems, and how we, what kind of interactions, interactivity to present to the humans, so the human side of creative ongoing thinking processes promote. And going through those research, I have come to realize that when the system or software system or any type of system like a political system or curriculum comes into existence in a societal context, the two worlds emerges. One world is the world of making, and the other one is the world of using. The world of making is concerned with molding, constructing, and building. It's the thing that you create. It's the material that you realize. It's a scheme that you build up. It's the artifact that the man creates. So it's the world of making. And at the same time, when these made things or artifacts are put in a societal context, the people started using it. People started being covered by it. People are sort of surrounded by it, or standing on it, or holding it, or putting it in their bags. And then the world of using emerges. It may be unconscious, but they start experiencing those systems' capabilities or functionalities. So the world of using is concerned with engaging or experiencing or interacting with. And the interesting, what is really interesting is that once you bring or come in, make the technologies made into existing in the human context, there is the world of making shows up, and then at the same time the world of using emerges. So those two worlds are structurally, semantically, and temporally intertwined through physical, digital, or symbolic presence. On the right side is the world of making, and on the left side is the world of using. And so when, as a researcher, by thinking about the impact of technology to use as like a communication support in a daily life, what it's not only what we are concerned with is to make the system itself, which is the world of making, but we also have to concern with, or somebody has to be in charge of concern with the world of using, which is what kind of the world emerges surrounding human beings. It may be a single person or a group of people or the entire society, just like Twitter or Google. Individual application is a tiny part, but as a collection of the functionality or the phenomena happening, it's huge. And so we are, as a designer, we want to design the world of making, but at the same time we have to design the world of using. But they are really intertwined. So those things we have to come think about it carefully. So the third topic is the opportunities in the collective creativity spectrum. I've been interested in this knowledge injection design, and then I have been sort of exploring how can we support creativity, and we coined the term collective creativity to note to the individual creativity that is empowered by interacting with external representations produced or provided by themselves, by sensors and databases systems, or by other people. So whether a person is holding like a mobile phone, but this mobile phone is maybe a media for communicating with somebody else, or it's a media for browsing the huge amount of data, or media is maybe for you yourself to keep a personal diary. And the physical interactivity itself is the same, but the entire world that sort of spans has a very different meaning, and I call it spectra. So collective creativity spectra has three spectra. Each spectrum is concerned with particular cognitive and social factors and have its own design principles for interactivity. The first one is, spectrum is to have, when a person have a conversation with self-externalized representations, like sketching or note-taking. Or when a person is experiencing the space of massive amount of data, that's another dimension or a spectrum. And then the third one is when acquiring knowledge and information through other people. It's more like a social media. So let's go to each of the spectrum. When having conversation with self-externalized representations, the key phrases in those situations are include listening to the back talk of the situation, reflection in action, where you are taking note, and these notes, taken notes talk back to you, and you learn something, and you become more creative. So it's a really self-having conversation, but it's a fundamental knowledge activity for humankind. And there are some design principles to support that kind of a process. For instance, one set of principles we came up with is for the representation to have rich interpretation, to afford incremental grounding, or to provide hands-on interactivity, and so that it doesn't hinder or obstruct your thinking processes. And those are, there are studies that, what is design principles, to identify design principles to better support the communication between those tools and the users. When experiencing the space of maximum amount of data, key phrases will be different. Users might want to actively engage in the data exploration. They may need to do a sense making out of the data, or turn taking between the system's automatic clustering processing versus humans want to find something, observe something, notice something, and then capture that kind of moment, and then information and knowledge. And those kind of should be supported as a smooth process, a cyclic process of tracing, focusing, and highlighting. Data animation could be a key where, of course, interactivity is necessary, but at the same time, the system has some automated movement and approach to guide people to lead to a certain kind of interesting parts of the data, for instance. Or just understanding those data and then becoming aware of opportunities and chances is one thing, but another way of using data is for something to use for provide a provenance for design reasons. Provenance means the origin, and if you want to look back, city development involves 30, 40 years. And then having one design decision making coming through a very years and years of reasons and why and the situations and those historical development of individual decision making could be browsed out of those censored collected data. and so the future is pretty soon, something like that. Then how can we support those sense making and active engagement to establish those interactivity will be a huge research topic. The third spectrum is when acquiring knowledge and information through other people. And all of a sudden, when a person feels like you are interacting with the information, but rather it's more like a communication with somebody, your attitude changes. And then all of a sudden, social capital means I owe you something or you owe me something, like expectation, obligation. Those feelings comes in, and those feelings affect the way that you understand and perceive the information. Mutual reciprocity it could be a key. Trust and social reputation also drives a huge motivational forces for humans. How you communicate expertise becomes critical because it's like a symmetric. It's not a symmetric relationship among the expertise communication. There are many principles to design those communication styles, including one is to provide always provide a rationale, and then whether you have to trust the person who provided the information, or whether one should be able to appropriate the information given by the others to your task will be a key to be a successful sort of utilization of information given by others. So these are just examples of existing research framework to better and more effectively design communication tools and environments for human beings. So once we put those communication in a societal context, and then together, the ways of design thinking or design approaches together with the technological sort of and possibilities will be a really interesting next step. So as the last section of the talk, I'd like to propose to extend mindset into environment-driven research engagement. So in design, what designers really do is not only to analyze the current situation and then propose a design solution to deal with the problematic situation. What is really happening, or what should be really happening, is to envision the future situation. Envision a desirable future situation where people are engaging in existing and not yet existing artifacts, and then you derive what the artifact would be able to lead to attain the future situation. So what to design is not the artifact itself, but what to design is the situation. People, including ourselves, humankind, and the artifact, and together we sort of design it. So that's sort of an envision-based design, and I think this kind of scheme can also be applied to research. So instead of coming up with the solutions to the existing problematic situations, we can also envision the future, and envision from the future through the collaboration, through design, through education, funding, governance, and by promoting those processes, it's like future-driven envisionment research. Such keywords that I listed here will be sort of play a key role, like method, science, technology, of course, but inspiration, instrumentation, humanities, imagination, creativity, and simulation. So those factors would play a key role, and in our project, we are hoping to sort of engage in our collaboration through those motivating, exciting factors. So thank you very much.